Hello everybody. It is the Ditch Doctor coming back. So I decided what I'm going to start doing with my channel here is I did a little bit of homework and I am going to be actually breaking down various diseases after trying to stream the last video, realizing there was some audio issues while playing due to the in-game volume. You couldn't really hear what I was saying or what I was trying to elaborate on as far as what the virus in Dead Island is. So I decided to go and actually break down and do some research on it, do some homework, something I enjoy doing in my spare time anyways, because I am a nerd. That being said, we are going to start off here by just doing a quick little run around. I'm going to find us a little zombie and begin to explain exactly what the virus here in Dead Island is, which is also known as the HK virus. It is a combination virus. Are you dead? Yeah, cool. It is a combination virus of two different diseases specifically. But as you can see with the devastation it's caused, it's clearly an effective virus. The HK virus is peculiar in the sense of being a piece of fiction, but what makes it peculiar is that it takes from two real world counterparts with some tweaks to the infections to make them act more rapidly or more aggressively in the host. Let's see if we can find. Okay, you're a zombie. Good. Let me just right here. Alright, as he comes towards us, I'm going to go ahead and take some time to explain. So, no, look at him here. Fight my way out of this.
Do that again.
Lower the body count down just a smidge. Alright. As I was saying, sorry about that. Got a little sidetracked. Panicked just a bit. Pick up some alcohol. Use a little bit of medication. See if I can't find somewhere to observe the zombies while I explain what's going on. Ugh, that was almost bad. Oh, there's one right there. So, let's see if we can draw them over to us. Anyways, as I was saying before I was so rudely attacked, there are some tweaks, you know, to make this particular virus more aggressive and rapidly advancing on the host body. What I want to do with this video is I want to dive in to the real world ramifications, the real world diseases that make this up. I want to just elaborate on that real quick. Don't plan for this to be a long video, but I feel like between me trying to multitask, I might have a little bit of difficulty, so please bear with me. So the first virus that makes up the H in the HK virus is HIV. And I'm familiar with HIV. I mean, I assume at this point everybody on the planet has heard of it. It's one of the, I don't want to say popular, because that's not the right verbiage. It's one of the more well-known diseases that afflict humankind as we know it. HIV is an acronym for the human immunodeficiency virus. It's more commonly known for its third stage counterpart, which is AIDS. And how that ends up affecting the body is what we're going to get into here. A little bit of factoids in it, but let's go ahead and break down there. Okay, we can lure him out. The HIV virus, or HIV, the thing that makes it so dangerous, oh, forgive me. I get the hiccups every time I'm trying to upload a video. Alright, let's go ahead and zoom in on him. Let him swing a deer. So, the thing that makes this virus so dangerous is that it directly attacks your immune system by specifically targeting your white blood cells. This is crucial because the white blood cells directly act as a bouncer to your body. You know, you got any kind of infection, any kind of something slightly off, you got a bacteria, whatever, the white blood cells are the guys that come in there and they kick it out. You know, they're working overtime to make sure that you stay healthy and fit and happy. Well, healthy implies happy, but you get what I'm saying. I digress. They eliminate any foreign element, be it viral or bacteria, from our bodies, or at least that's what they try to do. That is their job. Okay? AIDS is, like I said before, the stage 3 version of HIV. This is important to note because we're going to be identifying the symptoms here that we see exhibited in the infected of Dead Island. HIV is often spread through unprotected sex. I imagine that'd be commonplace at a nice fancy resort such as this. Family friendly, but as we can see in the opening video here, it is also a bit of a party spot. You know, not just families coming here, but looks like young adults coming and having a little woohoo for the fun of it. Now, as far as we are concerned, for the purposes of this particular outbreak here with these particular zombies, the reason why HIV is the dangerous part of this equation, the reason why it comes into play so heavily, is because some of the ways of transmission, you know. We get into the way that it's spread, the way that HIV is typically transmitted. As we said before, unprotected sex is one of the ways that it's spread. But we also can see that it spreads through unclean needles, contact with blood, with the blood of an infected individual. Also, and this is more rare, it can spread from mother to child during pregnancy and childbirth. But what we're going to focus in on here is the fact that it's spread through blood. As you can tell, my nice little stick here, nice and bloody, a little bit banged up, a little bit bashed in. So whenever you're swinging this thing and going all wild, girls going wild on these zombies, the thing you got to worry about, if we are being us and not being one of the lucky few that are immune to the virus, which we'll get into in a little bit, is that blood splatter get in the eyes, get in the mouth, get wherever. Mucous membranes, it can cross over, and then boom, you're infected before you know it. And that's just with HIV. That's not even going into the second part of this virus. Now, let me recover some health before we continue. Okay. So, let's go cover the symptoms real quick. Seems like the next logical step. So, stage 1, HIV comes in 3 stages. Stage 1, you're going to have fever, chills, rash, night sweats, muscle aches, sore throat, fatigue, swollen lymph nodes, and ulcers in the mouth. And that's also known as acute HIV. Then you have stage 2, which is clinical latency. With clinical latency, in this stage of the virus, essentially, yeah, everything's going to continue to multiply. I don't want to say good thing, that's not the appropriate wording for that, but the kind of blessing in disguise is that it will continue to multiply, which is obviously a downside, but it is at extremely low levels that it does this. For the next, people without treatment in this particular stage of HIV can stay in this stage for like 10 to 15 years. There have been some cases reported to move at a much slower rate, but those are kind of the outliers of this scenario here, so we're not going to focus too much on that. Instead, we're going to move on to stage 3 of HIV, which is AIDS. Alright, I made myself laugh a little bit. So, the symptoms with stage 3 with AIDS is rapid weight loss. Oh, I got a little tongue-tied there. You have rapid weight loss, recurring fever, or profuse night sweats. So basically,
something good in here.
Pretty similar as before. We have extreme tiredness. You become lethargic. You don't want to move. You don't want to get up. You don't really want to be up and about. Your body just wants to rest. Like, it wants to just be sedentary, which is not always a good thing. You have prolonged swelling of the lymph glands. I keep saying I apologize for that. You have prolonged swelling of the lymph glands in the armpits, groin, and or neck. Diarrhea lasting for more than a week at a time. That's disgusting, but it's the reality of part of the disease. And the reason why that particular aspect of it is dangerous is it causes you to become dehydrated. Whenever you're dehydrated, you don't make great choices, such as eating people's flesh if you're a zombie. But sores, we already covered the sores of the mouth from stage 1. Then whenever you get into stage 3, the sores, you also have sores at the mouth, anus, or, sorry guys, genitals. It's easier for you to get pneumonia. Red, brown, pink, or purple blotches on or under the skin, inside the mouth, nose, and eyelids. Memory loss, depression, along with other neurologic disorders can come into play and play a factor into your overall well-being here. Now, before I go and contrast and compare all of these directly to the zombies, let's cover the second half of the HK virus, which is the K part, which stands for kuru. Now, if you're not familiar with kuru, I mentioned it in the last video. Didn't know if you guys could really hear it. This is the whole reason why we're doing this one.
We need to find more.
Let that guy finish talking. Okay, just to make sure. Be safe. Okay. Kuru. Okay, so kuru is also known as the laughing disease. It's weird. I don't know. Every disease is weird whenever you really think about it. But kuru is weird because of the way that it particularly affects its host. Now, the laughing disease, it causes laughter in its victims well beyond the point of pain. Like, they live in agony whenever they're laughing. It is quite the opposite. The muscles in their face are being just overworked. You ever laugh so hard it hurts? You ever smile so much your cheeks get sore? That's essentially what these people are going through all the time with a particular disorder. Pardon me, I had to get a drink. So, kuru was originally discovered back in the Okay, so its first official case was in 1950. However, it was discovered. There were undocumented believed reports of kuru as early as 1910. Now, essentially it's caused by infectious prions found in the brain in a contaminated gray matter of a host. It was discovered and
useful.
The Aboriginal. Its origin, I should say, comes from the Aboriginal people of Papua New Guinea, specifically the Fore tribe. It was discovered whenever somebody witnessed the Aboriginal people of Papua New Guinea practicing in ritualistic cannibalism as part of their burial process for the deceased. They believed that by consuming the deceased flesh, they would return the life force of that person back to the original tribe. They would bring the life essence, life force, life essence, whatever you want to call it, the spirit, the mojo, if you will, back to the tribe. By doing this, they unintentionally expose themselves to the infectious prion whenever they consume the gray matter of the brain of patient 0. Which again, due to the disparity in time, we don't know exactly who or when that was. The first confirmed case was 1950. And again, they believe it might have been 1910, early 1900s, turn of the 1900s, whenever it originated. But no documentation, can't confirm. And whenever it comes to science in general, specifically medical science, it's just science in general. You have to go with what you know. You have to go with the empirical evidence, with what's documented, and then you have to replicate and duplicate the process. That was a little bit redundant. I apologize. But you get what I'm saying. The practice continued actually up until 1960, so only 10 years after we discovered kuru, after it was first documented that the practice continued, and the Aboriginal people of Papua New Guinea put a stop to it. Not bad. However, cases have appeared long after this due to the long incubation period. There's a good amount of time that passes from ingesting kuru and ingesting the infected gray matter by its people that symptoms will then start to pop up. Now, again, just quick comparison, and we'll touch back on it later. That's a little bit strange considering how fast we've seen people reanimate, be turned and reanimate, and come back in this particular video. In this particular game, in the opening video of this game, for that matter. You know, you see somebody get bit, and it seems like a matter of seconds they turn. So, let's go ahead and cover the symptoms of kuru. Okay, you have arm and leg pain, coordination problems. They become more severe with time. Difficulty walking, which you can kind of chalk up to the coordination issues as well. It's not like it's just one or the other. Then you have your headaches. With your headaches, you end up having swallowing difficulty. There's another side effect. You get tremors and muscle jerks. You have, as the aforementioned, uncontrollable laughter. You know, it becomes to the point of painful. You can't really separate. So, with these combined symptoms between the HIV and between kuru can lead to, well, let me back up. The combined symptoms of kuru alone can lead to malnutrition and starvation. The average incubation period is 10 to 13 years for kuru, but some cases have reported a 50-year incubation period. No treatment currently exists. Death usually occurs within the first year of the first sign of infection. Now, again, this is a bit strange to go over as far as how is this going to compare to the HK virus that we see in this game. How is this going to add up? Now I'm going to take a brief moment to talk to Cinemoy, make sure that the audio doesn't get contaminated with his audio. So let's enjoy whatever he has to say.
There are 2 petrol stations in the area, right? One by the lighthouse and one by the tunnel to the city. There might be some food and drinks there. I need you to go and bring everything you can find.
Yes.
You might need a car to get it all back. Look for one at the station.
Okay. Gonna go get drinks for Cinemoy. And we're back. Thank you for that little brief pause. I appreciate it. I just wanted to make sure that the audio didn't get contaminated with the in-game audio. Been having some trouble figuring that out lately. I apologize. Thank you for bearing with me. Okay. Now that we're back at it, after covering the reality of these 2 separate viruses, let's combine and compare them to the HK virus. Clearly not all the symptoms from reality are present in the infected of Binoy. This may be due to the fact that the outbreak we find ourselves in is taking place a few hours after the initial mass infection. Taking clues from the opening scene, we see an infected woman attack the bouncer that is telling us, like, hey buddy, you're drunk, you need to go home. Yeah, you can't be here. Yeah, that whole deal. You ain't gotta go home, you can't stay here, that whole deal. So, we see an infected woman attack him. And I mean, she comes flying in like a bat out of heck out of nowhere, and boom. Well, yeah, come on, stand up. Thank you. Alright. This whole trying to drive and talk thing. Trying to read over my notes as I go. So, taking clues from the opening scene, we see her attack him, she bites him, we can see she's already bloody. This allows us to begin to attribute HIV's blood-to-blood transmission of the infection. But we will choose to look specifically at the base infected to build our case. I know that there's special infected in this game, and that, you know, you have your... Essentially, they're the game add-ons to make the game a little more difficult, and give you some challenges after a period of time. So, ooh, tagged her. So let's go ahead and cover the infected symptoms, since we already covered HIV and kuru. Now, this is where it's going to get a little bit more fun for us, trying to link this up, trying to link the real-world symptoms to the symptoms of the infected. Mainly because, like I said, the infection rate seems to be rapidly enhanced. It's not the same, it's not, you know, you're not getting the usual incubation periods as we found with HIV and kuru, which can take years. You know, this is happening over the course of minutes, hours, in some cases in the game, seconds, depending on how quickly you move. There's a particular mission that I just covered where you go and pick up a woman and her husband. Husband fought off an infected individual that had attacked him and bit him. Okay, not cool. Don't want to get bit, but we see he begs us. He says, "Hey, take my wife to safety, please. You know, I don't want to hurt her." All right, good and fine. After picking up the wife, I immediately took her to the lighthouse in the game here and kept her safe. Now, one would think that that would mean he should still be alive whenever she asks you to go back and check on him. However, whenever I went back to check on the husband, he was already dead. He had already succumbed to his wounds. Oops. Hang on. Sorry, got a little distracted, couldn't tell where he's coming from. The only thing I don't like about driving vehicles in this particular game. So, as already stated, let's climb up on here. You know, I went back to check on the husband at the request of the wife. She says that he, you know, he means the world to her, all that jazz, all that married mumbo jumbo. But whenever we go back and we do check on him, he's already infected. He's already turned. I'm going to stand up here for safety's sake. You know, he's already turned. The infected symptoms that we come across, or I'm going to go ahead and try to attribute them to which virus they come from originally. Coming from the zombies, trying to attach them to either HIV or kuru. Please feel free to leave a comment whether you disagree or agree with my assessment. I'm always welcome to some criticism. And if you've thought of something that I haven't thought of, please leave a comment below. Let me know. You know, I want to make sure that I'm doing this nerdy little project of mine as much justice as I can. So, while we're covering the infected symptoms, we have muscle spasms. Muscle spasms we can attribute to kuru directly. Like I said, the muscle twitching, muscle aches, uncontrollable laughter, difficulty walking. You know, that's definitely kuru. We can definitely see that, give that a direct link to kuru. The next one, lowered motor functions. Again, difficulty walking, kuru. We have moments in the game where we see that the infected are lethargic. They're not really active, not getting up, not moving, not running around. You know, not making your life a living hell until you're right on top of them. That, I would go ahead and, if they're not actively pursuing food, and they're being lethargic, they're being found sitting or playing dead, I feel it's safe to say that you can actively attribute that to HIV. You know, specifically stage 3 AIDS. Now, you have sores that are found all over the infected. Hard to be fair, though, it is harder to determine if these sores are from a bite, if they are from the infected just bashing their fist against something. But I will try to find an infected here to use to show as an example. Give me one moment, shouldn't be that hard. They're all over the place. See if we can get one or two alone to limit our risk. Here we go. This guy, he's good enough. Pay attention. Thank you. Okay. So this guy here, he has obviously open wounds on his arms. He has what looks to be tear marks and bite marks on his left bicep here. But at the same time, his rib cage is exposed, assuming somebody nommed on his side. But if we get down and look closely, stop flailing your arm. Thank you. You know, the sores, the open areas on his right arm lead us to believe that this could be the case. Again, it's hard to determine if it's a bite or if it's from him bashing his fist against something or his body being just beaten and battered from chasing down his next potential meal. There we go. Anyone else? Okay. Back in the vehicle. And back to our list of symptoms. So you have discoloration of the skin, as the aforementioned, you know, red, purple, pink. Essentially, there's discoloration. You can take that and adjust a little bit because these zombies particularly appear to have gray skin, as to show that they are no longer alive. Or at least not in the traditional sense. Can't really dissect zombies in the game to see if their heart's still beating, but you get what I'm saying. The fact of the matter is the discoloration of the skin is there. Let's go ahead and chalk that up to, oh, I ran into a tree. Let's chalk that up to HIV as well, AIDS. Again, stage 3. Next one, we have blood buildup in the eyes and mouth. Now, this one's a little more tricky because of the previously mentioned list of symptoms between kuru and between HIV. We don't particularly see anything that could attribute to that, with the exception of sores in the mouth. Now, sores in the mouth are going to be uncomfortable if they're, and again, this is another hard one to determine because you have, I drove to the wrong destination. It's going to be another hard one to determine because the sores in the mouth could be from, you know, ZZ word. What the hell's going on? This can be from ZZ word chomping down on his latest victim. This could be because of the sores that we see over the other areas of the body and that are one of the symptoms of HIV. Sores inside the mouth, I mean, if the heart's not beating, there's no blood pumping. However, it's presumed that the majority of the blood, so I was where I needed to be, okay. It's presumed that the majority of the blood that are on the infected in this game do not come from the infected themselves. Instead, they come from the previous meal. That seems appropriate to call them. But whenever you break it down and look at it that way, I guess you could attribute it to AIDS. I initially put down in my notes that I had neither. You know, neither was really a prime candidate for the particular virus in question. But according to the game's lore, all the survivors who are immune share the common trait of having O-negative blood type. Now, this is going to be rough for the rest of us in the world, as roughly only 7% of the world's population has O-negative blood type, making it rare. Not the rarest, but making it rare nonetheless. So if we look at it that way, and we break that down, what is 7% of the world's population? And the game was made back in 2010, almost a decade later I'm doing this video. So let's go with the 2020 statistics, because that's what we have, and that's what applies to us. As of 2020, it is estimated that there are 8 billion people in the world. This means that only 560 million would remain unzombified. Now, let me clarify. That is a big number. 560 million, nothing to laugh at, nothing to scoff at. However, whenever you take into account that there are, again, 8 billion people, you're still going to have a rough time. 8 billion people versus 560 million. Not good odds. On top of that, that's uninfected. That's not survivors. Okay? We have people in this compound that I'm currently standing in that are uninfected. But they're uninfected due to luck, not due to immunity.
It's just what I was hoping for.
So whenever you take into account that in this particular game there are 4 survivors, the 4 main characters that you can play as, who are quote-unquote, immune to the disease, you're going to run into some issues in the long term. The survivors are not guaranteed to remain alive. Our guy in the opening cinematic, the opening play, first couple minutes of play, he gets lucky. He doesn't die based on pure luck. He instead ends up getting rescued by a couple of other people, assumingly they went in and forced to cover each other's backs to make sure that they didn't get killed, because they are not immune. Now, you are still human, even if you are lucky enough to have the rare O-negative blood type. You're still human. Your body can only take so much punishment.
No trace of that guy who said he could help us.
Let me pause here.
Dominic's trying to boost the transmitter, but who knows how long that'll take. Meanwhile, everything you bring disappears in a flash. We're almost down to nothing. I was afraid to even think about it, but I don't think we have a choice. I need you to go look for supplies in the town. Can you do this for us? Yeah. The tunnel leading to the town is blocked. Those things are everywhere. But I have a plan. There's a truck we can use to punch through. I saw some blokes pull an 18-wheeler with a broken axle out of a ditch with it once. If anything can get through the tunnel, it's that rig. Guaranteed. Now get to the parking garage and bring back that truck. Once you do that, then we'll worry about the rest.
Okay. Again, thank you for bearing with me while we had to listen to Cinemoy. I could not skip him. As I was saying, you're still frickin' human. You're not Superman. You're not Batman. Batman, I understand, is still human. Nerds, don't at me. But you're not going to be able to take a sustained beating from the infected of Dead Island, assuming that the virus ever got out and made it to the mainlands. Binoy is located off of the coast of Australia, so it's fairly isolated, and we're dealing with lesser numbers, but still, nonetheless, this is something that we're going to have to worry about, because even if you are lucky enough to have the O-negative blood type, and you, again, are still human, there's only so much punishment you can take before you succumb to your wounds and are beaten or eaten to death by hordes of the infected. The biggest difference between the HK virus and its real-world counterparts is the speed of the incubation period. As is the case with most zombie games, and movies for that matter, the real-world virus, no two people will succumb to the virus at the same rate or at the same time. There's a reason why the previous aforementioned HIV and kuru have incubation periods that range from, with HIV was 10 to 15 years, and kuru was 10 to 13. It's not that your body's better off fighting it. Sometimes the virus just takes its time. It's not a matter of your body fighting these things. It will eventually succumb to it without medical treatment as far as HIV goes. And even then, most medical treatment that we have is a stall point. Like Magic Johnson. That dude had enough money to fix his AIDS apparently. But I don't think the rest of us are extremely well-known NBA players that have money to just throw into the wind, essentially. We have limited resources. So for us, this is a death sentence with a long enough period of time. And in the case of these zombies, this is definitely the case. Once you're bitten, you're done. Unless you have that O negative blood type, it's over for you. Now, I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer. I don't want to have a super bleak outlook on it, but it's the reality of it. Where do I gotta get? Oh, I gotta go in there. Okay. But this is the reality of the situation for us. This is what we are facing, what we're looking at, what we have to look at. And let me climb up on here real quick. So, the biggest difference between the HK virus and its real-world counterparts, aside from being the incubation period, is obviously whenever it comes to zombies, everything is sped up to add uncertainty, to add... Oh, speaking of zombies, hey. Oh, look at you, girl. What's up? Where are you whenever I need... Somebody ate your boob. Wow, that's rough. So, the viruses in these games and these movies are sped up to add uncertainty to the situation, to give our heroes that element to fight against. You have somebody in the party gets bitten. Oh no, Jerry's gonna die. Jerry's gonna turn. When's Jerry gonna turn? Oh, I think there's always that one person. Jerry will be okay. Jerry's not gonna be okay. There's an unknown element of danger. Essentially, the TLDR, the infected of Dead Island, they're pretty cool. I mean, if you're a zombie fan, I can't think of a true zombie fan that just doesn't enjoy this game. I mean, you might not like all the game mechanics. Oh, her head popped like a zit. You might not enjoy every game mechanic about the game. There might be some nitpicks that you have, which is understandable. You're allowed to have your taste. You're going to have your taste. But in real life, the attention to detail of the real life viruses in this game is it is something to be appreciated if you're a nerd like me as far as medical science goes. Oh. It is something to be appreciated. They clearly put some thought into this. They clearly put some real life symptoms into the game. They attributed them to the zombies fairly well. I wouldn't say perfectly, but fairly well. While I don't believe the given symptoms of the real-life diseases would allow for zombies to run as they do in the game, I do believe it would make for a devastating combination. I mean, you do see with some of the more deceased corpses in the game here that they shamble, they walk. The newly infected are really the only ones that run. And again, this is another one of those attention to detail that I appreciate, because you'll notice, as I stated with Kuru, the motor functions, your ability to do things, the fine-tuned motor skills, they go away with time with Kuru. And you see that in-game with the zombies. Now granted, you also see... Oh! Nope, let's just take his big lumbering O for a minute, okay? So, aside from the fact that he is a quote-unquote brute... Oh, hell. Aside from the fact that he's a brute, aside from the fact that he's supposed to be this big, lumbering badass, we do see... It's good timing, guys. some of the slower infected in the background. Like, look at these guys. They really start getting their motor functions coming back. Their danger level. They're always dangerous due to the way that the virus can be transmitted, blood to blood, you know, mucous membranes, all that jazz. But the motor functions, you see, they're all just swiping at the air. There's no fine-tuned punching going on. They're swinging their arms wildly. They're just trying to attack their prey, which is you. Again, I do believe it would make for a devastating combination. However, I don't believe that every aspect of the is what we think it would be. It's not every aspect. Oh, I got lucky there. Not every aspect of these zombies would, in my opinion, carry over to the real life, as well as the game designers I presumed would hope. Another thing to point out is real quick, I just seen it and kind of forgot about it as I was doing my research, that popped into my head is the fact that we have blood spurting out of the zombies. That's not something you typically see in zombie material, typically, because they are, quote-unquote, the undead, implying that their heart stopped beating. Electrical impulses still going on in the brain that allows them, if they are traditional zombies. I'm not well enough into the lore of the game to definitively say, but what I will say is that going up against the HK virus as a typical human being, you're going to have a hard time. Sorry, this was a little bit of a long video. I think it ran a little bit longer than I intended for it to. But if you have any questions, if you'd like to see me do more videos like this covering these kind of viruses, hell, if you'd like to see me elaborate more on either end of the topic of this particular conversation regarding the infected of Dead Island, feel free to let me know in the comments. I never really enjoyed homework in school, but I was having a really fun time getting into this and just getting into the nitty-gritty of the HK virus and how it affects the real world applicants, us, in this game. So I'll go ahead and I will end this video, and as always, I ask that you stay safe, you stay healthy, and yeah, I'll see you next time.